What's up, everybody? Haunted Beard here. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to give you my review for the French-Canadian film Red Rooms. This is a psychological mystery thriller that tells the story of a model who becomes obsessed with a high-profile murder trial. And Red Rooms is one of the more disturbing and unsettling films I've seen recently. But the crazy part is that this movie is pretty much entirely devoid of any sort of blood, gore, and on-screen violence. And while there is somewhat of a plot and story developing with this serial killer murder trial that's going on in the film, it's largely a character-driven and character-focused story. Our main protagonist, whose name is Kelly Ann, is a very intriguing and perplexing character. And she's someone who it took me quite a while to feel like I had a good read on her. And I think that's all by design and the intentions of the filmmakers. And she gives a very cold, emotionless, and disconnected type of performance for the most part. And so there were large chunks of the movie where I was just trying to get a read on her in terms of what exactly is she doing? What is she up to? She's this woman who is a model and lives in this high-rise apartment, and so is fairly wealthy, at least. However, she camps out every night right outside the courthouse so that she can be one of the first people in to get into the courtroom to witness the trial that's going on. So she sleeps outside right at the courthouse, and she's there every day. She ends up meeting another girl by the name of Clem, who is at the trial every day. And Clem is very outspoken in her opinions. She is a fan of the guy on trial for all these murders. She thinks he is totally innocent. She thinks the court is corrupt and that all the evidence has been, twisted and manipulated against this guy. And so she's one of those crazy fangirls who loves and is obsessed with serial killers. And so while Clem is very open and vocal, on the flip side, Kelly Ann is the exact opposite of that. She develops a little bit of a relationship with Clem, and there's somewhat of a friendship that starts to develop there. But for a movie that is largely character-driven, I wish we would have gotten a little bit more out of her character, or at least maybe they would have handled it a little bit different. I do like the ambiguity of her in terms of what her motivations are, what she's up to, what she's doing. But there was just kind of a couple points throughout the film to where I was just really struggling to try to figure out, okay, why exactly is this story being told? What are they trying to tell us here? And so because for the most part, the film is kind of told through her perspective and you don't get a good read on her, there is a little bit of a disconnect there. Up until you get to the climax of the film where really everything is revealed. And I will say, though, that I do think that that was the intention. I think all of that is by design. And so I still think that the filmmakers were effective in terms of what they were trying to achieve. I just personally wish maybe it was handled a little bit differently. But regarding the actual directing and presentation of the movie, I think it works quite well. A lot of the film is presented in a very kind of cold and emotionless way. There's not much stylization to it either, which I think works well. Some of the opening shots at the courthouse are these very long, extended takes of 5 to 10 minutes, where we're getting these long monologues delivered by the defense attorney and the prosecutor. And the camera's just kind of panning back and forth and back and forth. And there's just these long, prolonged takes. However, the camera movements and the stylization of it changes a little bit towards the end as things become a little more frantic and chaotic and hectic. And you get more handheld camera movements and just more quicker cuts and edits and things like that. And this is done really just to convey the emotional and mental state of our lead character. And so I like just the way the film is shot and edited as well. I think this film does have some pretty interesting thought-provoking ideas and even some commentary to a degree, as it really kind of looks at and is this examination into the mindset of people who become obsessed with these types of cases. And really, it's kind of holding up a mirror to people who are fans of even stuff like true crime. And, you know, you see these stories and how absolutely horrific they are, how disturbing they are. And then you ask yourself, like, well, why do I enjoy watching true crime stories? And I can't help but ask myself that question because I watch true crime stories, and there's something about it that I can't help but just find interesting. And there's something about mystery that I just naturally gravitate to and take to. But it's just interesting though, because it's like, why is that? There's a scene in the movie where there is a talk show on television that is discussing the details of the court case. And it's just like this typical sort of entertainment talk show. But it's like we've turned, again, real life murder into entertainment. And the hosts there are very lighthearted and making jokes. And it's just this weird dichotomy to where it's like, how are we turning something as horrible as true crime into entertainment? And yeah, so in a way, this movie just kind of, it holds up a mirror to people who watch true crime and really looks at how society portrays it as something of entertainment. And what does that say about us as individuals? What does that say about us as a society? Well, I guess you have to answer that for yourself. The last 20 minutes or so of the movie are pretty wild and shocking and quite memorable. And I won't get into any spoilers or anything like that, but the ending, it left me a little bit conflicted. And I don't want to say anything more than that, because what happens and sort of what that means in the implications of that, and then looking at why characters do what they did. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what to make of it or how to interpret it. So I am still kind of conflicted on what my final thoughts regarding the ending are, but it's something that has stuck in my head, which is always a good thing. It's something that I would like to return to, which is another good thing. So overall, I quite enjoyed Red Rooms. I think it is unique in its presentation. It's very different from the typical sort of psychological murder mystery type film. If you're a fan of true crime, if you like psychological murder mysteries, I would recommend this. I think it's definitely worth checking out. Overall, I'm like a borderline 8 out of 10 for this. I think it's a pretty solid film, so I'm going to just go ahead and give it an 8 out of 10. Like I said, definitely think it's worth a watch if any of what I just said sounds interesting to you. So that's all I got for you. Thank you so much for watching. If you've seen this, hit me up down below. Let me know your thoughts. Would love to hear from you. Also, if you got anything out of this video, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. It's all horror and thriller content here on my channel. And I'll see you next time on The Haunted Beard.